It's that time of year for us in southwestern Ontario, Canada, where everywhere we look is a rainbow of color. So I want to show you how you can collect these beautiful, colorful leaves, preserve them for crafting, and then make a ball leaf luminary to warm those cooler fall evenings. Hi creative friend, I'm Jane from Sustain My Craft Habit, and welcome back to our channel. So when you're collecting leaves for pressing, ideally you want to pick them straight off of the tree rather than from the ground. Once they've fallen, they're already starting to get brittle and curl up, but sometimes you can find really beautiful fallen leaves that are still going to work for drying. So when I go on a walk, I like to take a bag with me in the fall and then fill it with all these different colors and shapes and sizes of leaves. The drying process is actually really simple. You're just going to need some paper towels, and then you'll sandwich your leaves on a single layer between the sheets of the paper towels. So you can see here I have some maple leaves, some oak leaves, some even green leaves from my mulberry tree, and I'm just spacing them around on this sheet of paper towel. I place them face down just because it makes it easier to press them when I add the next layer, but that's not necessary. So you can see here you're just gently continuing until you have all your leaves pressed between these paper towel sheets. Now, one of the tricks that can happen is that there's too much moisture. So that's why it's important not to pick your leaves right after a rainfall. It's better to wait till later in the day when the dew has dried off, because the goal here is to dehydrate and get as much of the moisture out as possible. If there's too much moisture trapped between your layers, your leaves are going to start to turn brown. So I actually like to check on my leaves every day, and if I feel that there's too much moisture in those layers of paper towels, I'll swap them out for a dry paper towel. If you have a bit of time, you can also take your blow dryer to help dry off the paper towels every few days and really help with the drying process of your leaves. After I've layered them all, I'll place a large cookie sheet or book or something else with a weight on it to help press everything down. It'll take about 5 to 7 days for your leaves to fully dry, and maybe even a bit longer for those bigger, heavier leaves. But you want to check on them every day or so. Again, let a bit of airflow through those layers. And once you feel that they are completely dry, you'll be able to feel it in your fingers that the leaves have more of a papery texture and less suppleness. They'll be rougher to the touch, and then you'll know that they are completely dry. If I'm unsure about how dry they are, sometimes I'll just leave them to air dry, take them out of the layers of paper towel, and just place them somewhere so that they can continue to dry now that they're flat. Once I feel like they're completely dry, after about 5 to 7 days, I simply will place them in a sealed container, and they'll stay like this, for months, years even, ready for use for when I need them for crafting. Now that I have a beautiful batch of dried leaves all ready to go, I wanted to see if I could actually decoupage with them onto a glass jar to create a pretty fall luminary. So I started by separating out my leaves into 3 sizes, small, medium, and large, and then took a clean, dry mason jar. I took the lid off of it, and we'll use the lid for the craft as well. But I simply started by painting a coat of Mod Podge and then using my heat tool to dry it completely. I then painted a second coat of Mod Podge, and this is the trick. We're going to be actually using the iron-on technique for this craft. So you want to let the Mod Podge dry completely and then repeat the Mod Podge. You're trying to create a really nice thick coating of glue into which you will iron the leaf. So once I had my thick coat of dried Mod Podge in place, it was time to press the leaf into there. I used my Easy Press Mini, but if you have any iron, this will work. Turn on the heat and then place a piece of parchment paper over top and carefully iron that leaf right into the Mod Podge on the glass jar. And this works so perfectly. I wasn't sure if it was going to stick, but it really did. And so I decided to continue around using other shapes, colors, and sizes of leaves. You can decide whether you want your leaves to overlap with each other or just be side by side. And then continue this process all the way around. As you are using the heat, it really does smooth out that leaf as well and presses it into the Mod Podge. This process was so fun to see all the different colors of leaves come together. I think it would make a really beautiful centerpiece with a whole cluster of these luminaries with a LED light inside. I have these ones and they have a really lovely flicker to them. Now you could use these jars or luminaries as a vase and simply fill it with flowers, but I decided just to dress up the lid to make it pretty. And so I started by painting the mason jar lid from my pasta sauce with some gold paint. It took 2 full coats to get good coverage. I set that aside to dry and then decoupaged on a bit of this beautiful bird napkin onto a birch wood slice. So I started by painting the slice with a bit of white paint and then simply Mod Podged the napkin right on there. I added a dusting of diamond dust onto the bird just to add a little bit of sparkle. And after shaking off the excess, I glued that decoupaged wood slice right onto the lid of the mason jar that I had painted gold. At this point, I went back to my jar and continued Mod Podging those leaves all the way around. Once I was happy with the placement of all the leaves, I decided to add a little embellishment around the neck of the jar. So I just wrapped some twine around there and then strung on 2 different sizes of these wood beads to create a cute little dangler, I guess, for lack of a better term. And then I glued that in place and trimmed off the excess. Finally, to finish off that lid, I glued on this painted pinecone flower, a natural Sola wood flower that I had in my collection, as well as this dried zinnia. I completely love how this fall luminary turned out with a couple of LED votives in there. They don't even look real, these dried flowers that we made. You could use the same technique for this jar with faux leaves if you don't have the dried ones available to you. Either way, I hope this video inspired you to get out there, collect some leaves, and get crafting. Thanks for watching. Bye!